Further ado then, Val, if you're ready.
Sure.
Yeah,
hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. As you know, my name is Val. I'm a fifth-class power engineer, and I have previous experience in manufacturing industry where I learned how to apply a set of tools and techniques to improve daily operations. In my experience, I have noticed that this can be applied not only in everyday life and also in building operations. So the topics that I would like to go through today are the walkthrough, which we all go through every day in building operations, morning meetings that we have with the relevant team members, the 5 whys root cause analysis that help us to sometimes find out the root cause in more than 5 whys, but it's just called 5 whys, sometimes in 3, sometimes in 2, sometimes in more than 5. We'll be discussing about team woods and the types of waste. Team woods is just an acronym for waste. Also about the 5 C's that stand for the 5 S's that stand for sort, set, shine, standardize, and sustain. And that will bring us to the standardization, where we may find helpful the use of standard operating procedures. So the day of a building operator starts with walking the building and documenting our findings. This walkthrough will basically place us in the reality of the day. I have attached 3 pictures here. This one, it's a very familiar one. We do this and log our findings. And these 2 here kind of symbolize that in our walkthrough, sometimes we encounter problems that we have to be prioritizing, and if they are very serious, we have to deal with them on spot. Also, I wanted to add that the information gathered during these walkthroughs must be used to inform the others in the morning meetings. Normally, there is a morning meeting every day. Pardon me. And I would say that the morning meetings are actually the start of the improvement process. Why is that? When we implement a culture of solving a problem and keep trace of it, we can be using the 3 C's board that I have just attached a picture of it here with like a suggested use. In the morning meetings, we promote good communication and we talk to one another directly instead of passing the information in a traditional way from one to the other and losing part of it. We're together, we talk about it, we put it here on the board that we will have ideally placed in the office where we have the meeting. What is the 3 C board? The 3 C's board is a board that we have the concern, the cause, and the countermeasure of a potential problem. In this example here, I just imagine that I will use a water leak scenario. When the problem is solved and documented if needs be, we incorporate our learnings into a standard operating procedure, and also, try and ask ourselves, why has this problem occurred in the first place? That brings us to the next slide, which is the 5 whys root cause analysis. The question why can be asked as many times as needed in order to get to the root cause. Sometimes it's more than 5 whys if the problem is complicated. It can be, answers about machinery parts, contractors availability. So let's go through the 5 whys on this slide, being about why did we have a flood? Because a pipe froze. And why did the pipe froze? Because the window was not properly closed. Why did the window not close properly? We had a hardware issue. Why was there a hardware issue? Because we didn't have a part in our inventory. And why didn't we have that? We were not organized enough. So no inventory management. We could say this is what led to our flooding.
Not to mention the window parts coming from Italy.
It's just something I imagined. I don't know where they're coming from.
It's real. Yeah.
So, no inventory management process, it is a waste, and can lead to problems like this. That leads us to the next part of this presentation, which is about team moods. Team moods, it's like an acronym, a mnemonic for us to easily remember the types of waste that we can encounter in our daily life. It can be at work, at home. In this case, I try to stick to the frozen pipe window problem scenario, referring to T from team transportation. It's a waste, and in this case, it's about somebody driving to get that part, which is at the shop, may not be open at that time. The next one, it's E, that stands for inventory. It can be either too much inventory that's holding room and value, or it can be, no inventory. Like this time, we didn't have a part that, if we change in time, would not have brought us to this problem. The waste of motion, the last letter from team, it's time of the waste of time that we're spending going up and down looking for a part or for a solution, and then because of the flood, we have to do more movement going and trying to deal with what happened. Waiting. This is also a type of waste. We can waste the time while we wait for this part to arrive. Overproduction is for instance, in this example, producing too much service hours, which is a waste of value. Somebody has to pay for that. The insurance, if you wanted to, Our processing is like we overusing the equipment for flood mitigation, vacuums, humidifiers. There is a lot of motion there too. We have to go with them up and down the building, elevators taking time. There is another two types of wastes here that I didn't have a connection with the window. It's the defects. Defects is when we do something that is not done right the first time, and that will cost us. It's a type of waste. And the skills waste is when we have in our team experienced people that can have a good input and share many good things with us, but they're not being actually listened to, and their valued experience is not being utilized. Say, for instance, to create a standard operating procedure that we can then all use to train ourselves and so not to make it too long, I think understanding this type of waste, Team Wood's acronym is a good way to help us eliminate all this waste that not only will help us save money, but also time. Going back, go ahead.
Never.
Or what?
Nope.
Tim Woods.
Nope.
None of us have ever heard of it, Val.
It's a
That's
new
kind of cool.
Is it a Switzerland thing?
No, I actually I got to meet Tim Woods more than 10 years ago back in England. Yeah, it was relevant to me, and it remained like that. It helped. It stayed with me, helped me think differently, I would say. But going back to our problem with the window and with the inventory, why did we not have the part into the inventory is, because I think, to me, in my imagination, we were not physically organized in our workspaces and in our rooms, in our warehouses. A very good example and organizing tool for this would be the 5S. We have a small description here. It's for the ones of us who are more visual. It applies, like I mentioned before, to warehouse, equipment, and tools management. And, just to make it easier, it can consist of markings on the floor, like seen in this picture here. Wall boards, like the one for organizing the tools. And also shelves with labels and also pictures, just to show where everything sits. It's basically a tool that will help ensure that everything has its place, so we know where to find it in case of an emergency situation in a timely manner.
So what language is the on the top bar there?
It's a very good question, Mark. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I try to use some of the building operations language that we know. So this language that you see there is it's Japanese.
Oh, cool, huh?
Yeah, like for the walkthrough, you will say it's called Jemba walk, but I just, it's easier to.
Oh, that's good. I would have never guessed it was Japanese.
No.
It's
Either.
it's because it comes from the Toyota improvement philosophy, as the Toyotism or lean manufacturing. I still drive a Toyota. That's a very good car.
Mhm.
So after we organize ourselves, let's say we make a tool board like this one, or we do markings on the floors. We establish that, every 2 floors we have a ladder, and we label the door of the cupboard that keeps the ladder. I don't know, details like this, we should then stick with what we agreed to. And in order to make sure that we are respecting the agreement, we have to standardize and share that with everybody. It's very important also that we make a culture of returning things back where we got them from, so we know where to get them when we need them next time.
Especially an emergency, when you need to grab something, and
Yeah.
it's not there.
He didn't hurry.
Yeah, and some of the buildings don't have a good phone coverage. By the time you make a phone call to find out where the things are, it can cost a lot in damage, depending on the situation. So talking about standardization, this brings us to standardization of our processes by creating standard operating procedures. We can rely on the tools that I have mentioned before, and they are not the only ones. I just try to keep it simple. So here I have an example of a draft SOP of the flood scenario. The one that we started in the 3C morning meeting. It's called flood. Now, just to add to it, in the creation of a better standard operating procedure, we need to involve all the relevant stakeholders. Like in our case here, I don't know, contractors and owners maybe, depending, and all the team members that we are with in the building, or they are coming in a building once in a while. So they each have to input their experience in order to make the SOP complete and better. It's important that we develop together as a team.
So is that, Val, is that information, do you upload it somewhere so that, like you got, owners, engineers, contractors, architects, insurers, facility managers, does all of those people have access to that information as it happens?
No. No, so what he's saying is, depending on the situation, you might include some of those kind of players
Okay,
in the standard operating procedure.
right, okay,
Because in the case of window hardware.
Yeah.
That was specified by an architect for a reason,
right,
so if you got a problem with that, then he's a resource to you. That, you know what I'm trying to say?
right, part of due diligence, right? And so that's why I was asking, is like, if they in Sweden have a place to upload that information, and any one of these people can look at it, because although there was a window problem or a window hardware problem, do the insurers have access to that information? Where over here, we would document that, and if the insurers asked for it, we could give them to.
Yeah, so when you're developing a standard operating procedure, then you have to gather a whole bunch of information from the different stakeholders in order to include it in that procedure.
Right.
So then what there's documentation that can go with it.
Right.
That's part of the SOP.
Right.
So that when you're trying to standardize, it means that, you know, for the maintenance of it or whatever, you're trying to standardize the activity.
Right.
It's maybe a poor example for an SOP, but
Right.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you gotta remember, this whole thing can be applied generically to anything.
Right. Yeah, I get that part. I just, yeah.
So-
I would just-
It could be the generator.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it's true, like when you walk in a room and it's organized, there's a zen about it. Even a stressful day, it takes the edge off for sure.
So Gary, to Grant, to respond to your question, there are companies out there that, depending on the size, I believe, that have hard drives that can be accessed from a distance. And yes, you can find the standard operating procedures there. That's where they are usually kept. Every time there is an update of the initial issue, it's being also updated on that hard drive, then is being printed and is being laminated and replaced with the old one. Like you get the new one that you have the latest issue and laminate it and go and change it with the old one that is not, it's not actual anymore, it's obsolete. So going back here a little bit in our scenario, you know, I have a couple of things here that I put. In case of a flood, what you should know, it's, you know, the actions are first isolate the leak by closing the unit isolation valves, and then mitigate the damage by vacuuming water and call the relevant contractors. Also, you know, on this SOP, when relevant, like in the case of these valves, we must use pictures to show what the valve or what the typical valve look like, and to show where, again, just like an example, to show where the valve is to be found and whether we need to remove something to get to the valve. We have to make it in such a way that anyone can walk into the building, have a look at this standard operating procedure, and understand in a few seconds what it's all about. Of course, like Mark said, we can make a reference to the documentation of the building, but just a reference, not to complicate it too much and not to make the standard operating procedure too complicated, because remember, sometimes we don't have the time to go through it, and we need to understand quickly what's all about. And you know, this normally sits at the station where, like, I don't know, you have a glycol pumping station there, you put it there if it's about the glycol. Or in case of this flood scenario, I would say it must be kept together with a flood mitigation card. Like if you know, company decided you have to create a flood mitigation card, you have this vacuum on it, the standard operating procedure, the absorbent, you know, and then you go there, you find your operating procedure for a frozen pipe, you go through it quickly, you see basically where the valves are. They're usually in each corner of the unit. You know what it looks like, what you have, whether you have to remove a cover or not. Go there and isolate the unit, stop the leak. Very important. Quick.
Val, I actually, maybe others have experienced this too, but I was in a building during the construction phase. And someone was installing something on the wall. And they drilled into a pipe. And during the construction phase, well, first they gotta find the site super. Right, so they gotta track them down. Then they find the site super. And the site super didn't know where the shutoff was. Right, so they're like scrambling, calling people, running around the building. It turns out to be like 3 floors down in the parkade. Right, but he eventually found it, and by then there was too much water. But so I've seen that where they actually didn't know where the shutoff was. And when you're a building operator, you are probably trained like, hey, here's all the main shutoffs, right? Here's where they are. But as a construction supervisor, maybe not. You know, like you're focusing on getting the building done.
Doesn't matter.
And you may not need it, but or depending on who you talk to, they might know where it is or they might not. So I've seen that before.
So
Yeah,
every
it's-
building in Calgary, but particularly in Calgary, there's always a book that goes with, it's actually kept in the CACF room or the fire alarm room.
Yeah,
And in that book, it's got all the emergency procedures and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
For an SOP for emergencies,
yeah.
it's also good to have that manual along with it. Because then anybody can access it. If anybody can read, it gives them a clue what to do.
How long does it take to read through it and figure it out though?
Right, that's why I always wondered if it was online and you had search engines, you could just.
You're
dump
like,
it, Right?
Yeah.
That's why I was
No,
asking.
shut
about
off for
speed
this
on
floor.
this.
It's never online, it's always, it's paper on site by law.
Yeah.
It has to be.
By law.
That's right, but
Yeah.
for easy access, I was thinking possible
No,
computer
yeah.
with search engine.
This was in
never heard of
Florida,
it.
but
Our building has no Wi-Fi, you'd be lost.
anyway, sorry to hijack.
True.
No,
Sorry to interrupt.
You can develop on this. The secret is to try and keep it as short and succinct, like very clear as you can. It's like you go there, it takes you, I don't know how long to get there. You pull the paper, it's 2 seconds. You look at it, skim through it. It should take someone about 10 seconds to understand what they need to do and where can they find the specific key points of that SOP. That's why this is not reality. I had SOPs I had many SOPs, but because the memory stick that I had somehow didn't work anymore, I lost everything. Templates, SOPs, I don't have an actual one, a real one that I can show you to see how simple it is and how can we keep it simple so everybody can understand in a very short period of time, like 10 seconds. Go look, see, understand. Once we manage to start creating the standard operating procedures, we can then start cross-training. Like people need to look into it. They need to also bring improvements to it if they feel there is something that it's been missed, like little details. That will bring to the conclusion that the concept of improvement is this: we plan, for instance, to make an SOP, we make the SOP, we check it, If there is something that's we feel is a deviation from the reality, we act on it. And then we keep following this circle of analytic thinking and updating ourselves as a team as we go. I don't know if I said it, I don't remember, but it's something that I want to add. It's basically no good if somebody is developing by itself. We have to develop by bringing the team with us. We have to develop as a team. It's no help if I'm, I don't know, up here and you are so high that I don't see you, or so low. It's no good. We all have to be basically trained on the same level, I would say, and we need to identify who can do what in our team. We plan for ideally plan to build a realistic roadmap of where we will want to be and what we can do to get there.